Anna, thank you for joining me.
Thank
Anna
you for
is,
having me. Thank you.
yeah, Anna is an illustrative branding expert who works with climate founders and climate firms to really bring their brands to life. And her work is brilliant. It's great. It's really striking ever since I've seen it. I think Anna is one of the leaders in the space in sticking true to being, you know, laser focused on working with purpose driven founders. And that's been an inspiration for me in my journey so far. So, yeah, thanks again for being here. And I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure to talk to you today.
Nice. Okay. So, I wanted to find out a little bit more about your background and what originally brought you to illustrative branding. And then was it from the start that you wanted to work with, climate founders and purpose driven founders, or did you sort of find your way into that?
Well, long story. I try to make it short, but I have been always an illustrator. That's like my main passion. That's what I identify as. And well, I didn't always work with climate brands. I worked before in a very normal advertisement agency. So for the devil, some might say. And so then when I 5 years ago when I came to Italy, I had kind of a change of mind. I don't know. I guess any expat has that experience that there are new things that are more interesting. And for me, it was seeing that climate work is very important. Surprise,
Hmm.
surprise. But yeah, that was the first step that I took into working in the climate space. And that was the point where I decided that I actually want to use my working hours as climate action.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like there's similarities in our journey from sort of being a creative, just sort of finding their feet and working for the jobs that would, support us, and then um, seeing the real life effects of the climate crisis. And because I know I felt a similar sort of aspect in the last couple of years, I was like, I can't ignore this anymore. um, and I can't spend, whatever it is, 70, 80% of my life using my skills for things that might actually be contributing to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I feel like it's a growing movement within the creative community. I know you're also a member of Creatives for Climate. Um,
Also, yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I think it was a quote from Antonio Guterres that sort of stuck in my head, where he was like, the advertising and marketing industry, of which we are a part of in our own ways, is now has to take accountability and responsibility for the role that they're playing in perpetuating and prolonging, fossil fuels and just generally destructive impacts on our own environment. So yeah, that's one line that's always stuck in my head, and I was sort of like, well, I don't have a choice anymore. I've been called out here.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. And it also, well, apart from like me personally needing more than just earning money, it's,
Hmm.
I think we can't ignore that we are playing a very, very big part in the culture of overconsumption. And I'm a big advocate for creatives that are trying, at least trying to talk to their clients to maybe make a little bit better choices, even if they can't make the big decisions about going sustainable. But I think we do have the power to at least nudge them into the right
Yeah,
direction.
yeah, I think so. And we are at the heart of it storytellers, so we need to take on that responsibility. And you know, the I think it's very fulfilling to embrace that responsibility and start um, telling stories that don't leave you with that voice in the back of your head saying like, oh, is is this really the right thing to be doing? So it really is as scary as it is to like embrace, um, just working with purpose driven companies and climate founders and all. I think it's so rewarding as well.
It is
Mm.
definitely all of it. Also, the community that is connected with it. I think it's the most beautiful community, and like they give everybody a warm welcome, which is amazing in a space. And as a solopreneur, it's really
Yeah,
supportive.
yeah, and it's I think the distinction between having to be, I think it's sort of there is still that aspect of sort of like, oh well, if you're being the perfect environmentalist or the perfect sort of climate conscious person doesn't exist. And I don't know if you've sort of seen that in the last like 6 months or a year, but I feel like I've seen a lot more people talking about that like it's not about being perfect and being like changing your whole lifestyle. But it's about like step by step, just incrementally making changes and doing what works for you.
Yeah, definitely. To come back to what we are working on in the marketing space, I think if we would go radical, we couldn't even work in the space
Yeah,
that we are in. But it's
yeah,
really about everybody using their strength to go into the right direction. And at
yeah,
some point, I hope that also marketing is not part of the problem, of course.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's a journey, but we'll get there. But to
Sure.
yeah, to go back into that sort of like the space now and where you work, working with branding for climate founders and impact driven companies and that kind of thing. What is it that you're most excited or sort of passionate about when working with them, and when you're assessing a brand or a founder's sort of presence and everything? What is it that you feel sort of like, "Oh, we really need to fix this. We really need to make this like, or improve this."
Well, I think it's a very, very personal subject for each and every founder or company that I work with. So it's never one thing that needs to be fixed. But if I can talk more general about the space, I think we could use a lot more, like you said, we are storytellers. We could use a lot more stories in there, personal stories, because otherwise we are going into the direction of very generic stories,
Mm,
visuals that then result probably in some kind of leaves, wind turbines, that kind of stuff.
mm-hmm,
uh, and that's that's my goal with every client that I have, that I tell this personal story and their unique story, because if I'm just staying with the usual visuals, it will never be unique. But I think every founder, every company has such a unique story, and
mm.
like this, we can build brands that are truly standing out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's, I fully agree with that. That like the stories behind why people are devoting their lives to creating these, whatever it is, whether it's like tech or whatever it is, like people connect with the why of what you're doing, and with the transformation that your product or service brings, not with the showing just features and sort of like this is what we do. That just won't cut it. And especially with the climate space and the environmental space, like it's a blank canvas to an extent, and like right now it's like 10% of it is being shaded in. But there's so much growth and development that will come, that it's really, yeah, I feel the same way, that like passionate about um, showing people that their story is the most powerful thing that they have.
I love that you see it as a blank canvas. I maybe I'm more of a pessimist, but I kind of see that people want to copy the traditional marketing tactics, the traditional visuals. But of course, we should see it as a blank canvas. That's amazing. I will maybe steal it.
Feel free, feel free. I need to remember that myself, actually. um, we'll both be going out there now with the same story. But yeah, I do feel passionate about that. That it's, slowly, people are realizing that, even today is Black Friday, and I've never seen so many people on my social networks, like Instagram, LinkedIn. I've never seen so many people just putting up things, just saying like, "Don't do it, don't participate." Um, and there are things like, if you can get your shopping today, you can get your groceries or like something that you always need and always buy, and today you can get it cheaper,
Yeah.
then fair enough. But it's heartening to see more and more people, and a lot of them creative people, who are saying like, the truth behind this is just so destructive and so harmful, and unnecessary. So yeah, it's pertinent that we're talking about this today, of all days.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we just need to find new ways to go about it because I personally think we can't just ignore and forget those traditional ways that we
Mm,
are used to, but we need to also ease into the green transition because otherwise people will just say, I'm like, that's not for me, or that's such a harsh change. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's true. And so then when people are sort of considering, putting thought and time and investment into their brand, as whether it's a climate founder or their company, what are some of the foundational blocks that you would recommend people look at?
There is a lot, but I'm always starting from the story, of course, and then we would develop the visuals from that. And well, there are different aspects of a branding, why it works. There is on one side, there is of course the consistency, and that is actually in any way, like in any way you can be recognizable. That's a
Mm,
great way to build already a brand. We see it a lot with the very corporate brandings. They are not recognizable because of their uniqueness, but they are recognizable because they have a certain set of colors, a certain font that they always use, and they will always be recognizable with that. So consistency is a big one. And then when we go into actually the creation of the brand, we would create visuals that really fit with the personality of the company, because all the company has obviously a personality from the founder or the people that work there. And yeah, be making this really personal is already a great step in the right direction. It's like going into a supermarket to buy a finished plate that you just put into the microwave, or you have somebody make you a dish that really fits what your
hmm
taste is like.
hmm
This
Yeah.
is, yeah, this really makes the company feel good and the clients because yeah, both of those parties need to feel good. So those are the two steps that I think are really important.
So consistency and just staying true to your why and your story.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah, and I like that. I like that sort of like microwave meal versus home cooked, real sort of produce meal. That because it's which one are you going to remember in a more positive way, and
exactly.
which is going to actually like light up more more in your brain and that kind of thing. I think that's a good. I might steal that one myself now.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, um, and then when it comes to talking to people about that, do you find much resistance? Do you find that you have to educate people on the importance of that much, or are people sort of open to that?
It really depends. There are a lot of people who are very conscious of how important the visuals are and being visually professional, because that's how our world works. Everything is branded, everything looks very good, and that's why we see it, because the products or services that are not branded very well, I don't think we would see them, or if we see them, we would remember them.
Mhm.
So I lost my train of thought. um,
I think it's. I think perhaps what you're saying was that people are aware of the effectiveness, but I think what
exactly.
I'm
Thank you.
what I'm asking is when it comes to asking people to go that step further and bring their sort of personality into it, and to like dig a little bit deeper below the surface, do you find that they're resistant to that, or and also I'd be interested to know if you notice whether there's a difference between like more established business owners and people who are just sort of starting out in business.
So to continue from before, like I said, some people are very conscious of it, and they are also very conscious of more personal brands be building this emotional connection.
Mm,
And of course, there are some people who need to be educated. They say, I already have, like, I'm so good at what I do. I have such a great service. Why would I actually need to brand it or to make it pretty, like some people would say? But I think the part that both of those groups have together is that it's their company, it's their business, and it really needs to feel personal. And that's why I never need to argue about making a brand that has a lot of personality, because they
mm.
can just connect with their brand and their business so much more. So maybe I need to explain why branding is important, but I never need to explain why personality in a brand is important.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Um, yeah, that's really interesting. I thought maybe I would have assumed that it would be the other way around. Um, but yeah, that's interesting. And then what was the other question I asked was about, I'm not sure, maybe you haven't really noticed, but do you notice that more established business owners would come to you, or would it be more sort of people that are like new to owning their own business and that are, starting fresh?
Well, at the moment, it's it's those two types of businesses that come to me. And for now, the new businesses are the ones that I did the whole branding for, from a little bit of strategy to a logo to the illustrations to everything. And the more established brands are really the ones that want more personality. in their brand. So for them, for example, they already have a branding or they need to maybe rebrand, but what they want to add are the illustrations because they know how important it is to connect on that emotional level with their potential clients, with their clients.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Um, and as we're coming towards the end of the interview, I'll just ask one more question, but also towards the end of the year, um, I was wondering what was one project that really excited you and that you were really sort of happy with this year, and like, what was it about that project that will sort of stick in your mind?
Well, I think I need to mention one project that was uh, for an anti-violence program in primary schools. And this was an amazing project because it was so dear to the heart of the founder of this project that like the emotional connection and the emotional involvement in the branding was like huge. So finishing this project and having such a great feedback from it really made it a special project. And I know how much influence this has on how this project goes, if they get funding or if they don't get funding, and that kind of those kinds of
Yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah. That's the And I think that's a good place to end, because it comes back to that sort of, when people are really truly invested in what they're doing and passionate about it, it's so much more fulfilling. And I think it produces much better work, um, because as creatives, we sort of tap into that passion and we tap
Yeah.
into that story, and that's what sort of drives us. And really makes us, push our own boundaries and push them to go a little bit further, and to really want to like deliver the best possible end product.
Yeah, if yeah, that's great words. And I think all the results that I get for my clients, I mean, the numbers are important, but what
Mm,
is really important is that the projects that I finish with them give them so much confidence. And like you said, there is so much passion in there. And then when they are also confident in their business and everything is looking sleek and they love
mm.
it, they can just go out with a whole other level of energy, a whole other level of confidence.
Yeah,
And that's so beautiful about the work that we are doing.
yeah, yeah. I couldn't have said it better myself. So yeah, I feel like that's a good place to finish. So thank you very much for joining me, Anna, on the first ever
Thank
episode.
you. Thank you,
Uh,
Brian. It was a pleasure.
yeah, thank you. And we will, yeah, hopefully we'll swing back around sometime for another conversation in the future, and be able to touch back on these topics and see how things have progressed, see where we are on the canvas. Maybe we'll be at 15%, and things will have moved forward. So, yeah, thank you very much for joining.
Let's do that. Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.